Imagine a world where one person's ego could end an entire race. That was the world of Susa, the glittering winter capital of the Persian Empire. King Ahasuerus, a man who ruled over 127 provinces from India to Ethiopia, lived in a palace so grand it felt like a dream. The walls were covered in colorful glazed brick friezes depicting brave archers and mythical lions with wings. And the massive stone columns were topped with the heads of giant bulls carved from stone. It was a place of absolute power, endless wine and dangerous seabirds. The story starts with a royal banquet that lasted 180 days, followed by a 7-day feast for the local citizens. When the Queen Vashti refused to be used as a trophy to show off to the king's officials, she was instantly deposed. The king needed a new queen, so he launched a search for the most beautiful young women in his empire. Among them was an orphan named Hadassah from the tribe of Benjamin. She lived with her cousin Mordecai, who had raised her like his own daughter. Mordecai gave her one crucial piece of advice as she was taken to the palace. Do not tell anyone you are Jewish. So, she used the name Esther and entered the royal harem under the care of a eunuch named Hegai. Like the story of Joseph in Egypt, this was a tale of an exile rising from nothing to the heights of power. Out of hundreds of candidates, the king fell in love with Esther. He placed a golden crown on her head and made her queen, still completely unaware of her heritage. Shortly after, Mordecai was sitting by the king's gate and overheard 2 royal guards plotting to assassinate King Ahasuerus. Mordecai quickly told Esther, who reported it to the king in Mordecai's name. The plot was investigated, the guards were executed, and the whole event was written down in the royal history books. But Mordecai's heroic act was quickly forgotten because a new prime minister named Haman rose to power. Haman was an Agagite, a descendant of the ancient enemies of Israel, and he demanded that everyone bow down to him. Mordecai refused to bow. This was a massive clash of worldviews, the proud prime minister expecting worship, and a Jewish exile refusing to bow to anyone but God. Haman was so furious that he decided killing Mordecai wasn't enough. He wanted to destroy every single Jewish person in the entire Persian Empire. To decide the perfect date for this genocide, Haman tasked Purim, which means alons, a bit like rolling dice to determine a lucky day. The lot fell on the 13th day of the month of Adar. Haman then convinced the king to sign a decree, offering a massive bribe of 10,000 talents of silver to the royal treasury and arguing that this specific group of people didn't follow the king's laws. The decree was sent to every corner of the empire, and the city of Susa was thrown into confusion. When Mordecai heard the news, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and wept openly in the streets. He sent a message to Esther inside the palace, begging her to go to the king and plead for her people. Esther was terrified and sent a message back, reminding Mordecai of the strict palace protocol. Anyone who approaches the king without being summoned is automatically executed, unless the king extends his golden scepter to spare them. And the king hadn't called for her in 30 days. Mordecai's response is one of the most powerful challenges in history, telling her not to think that she would escape just because she lived in the palace. He wrote, "If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. And who knows but that you have come via royal position for such a time as this? Esther found her courage. She told Mordecai to gather all the Jews in Susa and fast for 3 days, tasting neither food nor water, while she and her maids did the same. She declared her famous resolve: "If I perish, I perish." On the 3rd day, Esther put on her royal robes and stood in the inner court of the palace facing the throne. When a king saw her, he extended his golden scepter and asked what she wanted. Esther played it cool and simply invited the king and Haman to a private banquet. At that dinner, she invited them to a second banquet the next night. Haman left the party feeling powerful, but his mood soured when he saw Mordecai still refusing to bow. Haman built a massive gallows, planning to ask the king to hang Mordecai the very next morning. That night, the king could not sleep and asked to hear the kingdom records. He heard how Mordecai had saved his life and realized his hero had never been rewarded. When Haman arrived early to ask for Mordecai's death, the king asked him how to honor a man. Haman, thinking the king meant him, suggested a parade with royal robes and a royal horse. The king told him to go do exactly that for Mordecai. It was a humiliating morning for Haman. At the second banquet, Esther finally revealed that Haman was plotting to kill her and her people. The king was furious and ordered Haman to be executed on the very gallows he had built. Even though the name of God is never mentioned in the text, the sense of a divine plan behind the curtain was everywhere. This mystery was part of the point, showing that even in a world of silence, help can arise from another place to save her people from the decree. Esther and Mordecai wrote a new law allowing the Jews to defend themselves. On the 13th of Adar, they fought back and won. This victory is why the Feast of Purim is still celebrated with joy and charity today.